read him at stltoday.com. For some reason, he likes the English beat.
He loves himself a good theme song.
Yes, he does. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Tony Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist. Good morning, Tony.
Good morning, McGraw, and you've definitely convinced me I'm not going to the Olympics.
All right, good. There's one more I have converted.
I was really teetering, but you've got me now. I'm definitely not going.
All right, good. Because if you were back, we don't want you to pick up Zika virus, and who knows what could happen. Right.
No Zika virus, and I'm a big fan of security.
Yes. All right, good. Fair enough. The controversial Tony Messenger joins us, going out on a limb. He likes security. First, let's talk about this Nixon veto of this gun bill. What are your thoughts as you watch it, and do they have the votes to override?
Well, two things, and I want to connect it right away because the timing is so interesting with the Supreme Court decision yesterday that said that domestic violence abusers. That it's completely okay for states to say that domestic abusers can't have access to guns. These are two very parallel discussions related to guns. Here's what happened yesterday. Nobody's Second Amendment rights were affected whatsoever, at all, infinitesimally, by Governor Nixon's veto of a new gun law or by the Supreme Court's upholding of a state law that says domestic violence abusers can't have guns. Nobody's Second Amendment rights were affected. So ignore the tweets from gubernatorial candidates that says the Second Amendment was under attack. That's not what happened yesterday. The legislature passed a law that tried to expand gun rights to a crazy place where we no longer need permits to carry a gun concealed, where we no longer have to do anything to walk around with a gun in our pocket, where the Castle Doctrine that allows us to protect ourselves in our homes applies to us when we're walking down the street. So if I'm walking down the street and McGraw pisses me off and I decide, hey, you know what, McGraw scares me right now because we all know he's a scary guy, I pull out my concealed weapon that I didn't have to do anything to go get, didn't have to do a background check, didn't have to do a permit. I shoot McGraw, and I'm defended if the legislature passes that law. It was a ridiculous law. It was a law that was debated purely for politics so that people running for election this year could say, I have the backing of the NRA. I love guns more than my opponent. That's all that was. So it was a totally appropriate veto. It has nothing to do with the Second Amendment. However, the House and the Senate in an election year right now, they have the votes to override it. My guess is Governor Nixon thinks he's got enough people who are willing to take a walk or go on vacation or take an appointment between now and September to where hopefully it won't get overridden. But if I were betting money, I wouldn't bet on that. I would bet that they override it because the legislature loves guns more than they love common sense.
Tony, quickly, because we got this with the right to work stuff where some Republicans sort of broke with their own party. I could see where some Republicans in some sort of mixed districts, if you will, sort of, as you say, get lost, get sick, can't make it back for the vote, or actually stand up and sustain Governor Nixon's veto.
Well, and here's one of the things that happens during a veto session. During the regular session, you're trying to get your local bill on naming the post office or getting a little bit of money for your school district or for your local nonprofit, or doing whatever it is that you're doing as a legislature, all the stuff that gets done behind the scenes that doesn't get headlines. You've got that bill waiting to pass in the last 2 or 3 days, and the gun bill comes up. The amount of pressure you have from your colleagues, particularly in the Republican Party right now because they run the place, the amount of pressure you have to take that vote, even if you think it's a ridiculous bill, is amazing. And there are Republicans who take that vote, who vote to pass a gun law that they know is a bad law, knowing that, you know what, if it comes back at veto session, I can change my vote because I no longer have all this other stuff hanging over my head. So there are lawmakers out there who will switch their vote because of that. So there's an opportunity for Nixon to get a few votes. And, there's always one or two, like you said, in a swing district who are really good at coming down with a sudden cold come veto session time. So I'd say Governor Nixon has a chance. Governor Nixon doesn't take a whole lot of chances. So I don't think he vetoed it without thinking he can turn a few votes.
Yeah, it's interesting. And then the Supreme Court had a couple of interesting ones. The gun one, which, let's quickly, it was, was it Maine? Was it the state of Maine that said if you...
It was the state of Maine. Many states in the nation, unfortunately Missouri is not one of them, have laws that say domestic violence abusers can't have access to guns. It's to protect... this is the thing about constitutional rights. The court has to balance constitutional rights. So if you're a domestic abuser, your right to a gun doesn't supersede your wife or your girlfriend's right to life. And so the court said, you know what, it's completely appropriate for states to decide that domestic abusers can't have guns. That's what this was about. And the Supreme Court said this historic law is completely able to be withheld. It's appropriate. There's nothing wrong with it. I think that's good. I don't think it affects the Second Amendment whatsoever.
Yeah, it also gets into states' rights versus federal rights and everything else. So, interesting stuff. Tony Messenger, St. Louis Post-Dispatch columnist, Tuesdays and Thursdays here and all the time at stltoday.com. Tony, have a good week. Thanks for checking in.
Thanks, you too.
825, Big 550.